People will start and make outrageous claims like, oh, we've got it locked down. We're the de jure government. We're this, we're that. But yet, every time you call them out on it, they have no proof of what they're doing, of what they're done. There's no guidance of law. There's no guidance of anything other than what they say. There's no links to any law. There's no there's nothing to back up anything they say. Not a damn thing. Take a real close look at it. There's not one thing to back it up. They talk about soil jurisdiction, land jurisdiction, air jurisdiction. Oh yeah, that's land, air, and water. Yeah, that's it. Law. That sounds really good. That's cool. Who put that together? But when in reality, if you don't know the real law, you know nothing. And that's the reason why people get taken down is because they don't know the law. They don't know the law. So if you're going to form an assembly, for instance, you need to know the law that guides the assembly. You need to know what makes an assembly an assembly. What makes an assembly assembly? Has Anna been able to tell you that? Or how about Kim Gogan? Has she told you? Does she tell you what a lawful assembly is opposed to an unlawful assembly? No, because they don't know. Or they're deceiving you. One of the two. There is no in between here. Russell Gould, he claimed the wrong post office. There was called the General Post Office that Benjamin Franklin had started. Did he ever tell you that? Where's his chain of title? Where's this chain of title to where he claimed it? Where is that chain of title? Who was the last head of the General Post Office? Does he even know? Does he even care? Those are the questions you need to be asking. What makes an unlawful assembly? What makes a real assembly? Which one is it, and how does it become to be what it is today? Why is it they go out and they say, this is an unlawful assembly, you must disperse? Well, they're burning down buildings and stuff, but they were talking about an assembly. And they say this is an unlawful assembly. Why do they say it's an unlawful assembly? What makes an assembly an assembly? So if they're calling that an unlawful assembly, then what are the ones that they're talking about when they talk about Anna von Reitz and the rest of the clowns? Tank, Kim, etc., etc. Hold on just a minute, please. Sorry about that. All right, so in any case, those are the questions you should be asking those people. When they start talking about these things, you should be asking, what is a lawful assembly? Where was the General Post Office? What was it? How did it come to be? Who was the last head of the General Post Office? Um, Russell Gould, I don't know what he's doing, but I believe he's a Mason. I don't think that his quantum grammar really did anything because I don't see anything happening there. But he's also not being blocked, but we are. Wonder why that is. Okay, so to start off here, I've done this before and I'm going to do it again. We start off with the Constitution. Nobody over argues these state constitutions, and I always bring that up, but they don't. So let's start off with the Constitution. We, the people of the United States, we, the people, capitalized P, of the United States. And then it also mentions United States of America. This was the union between the two. More perfect union. That's what it was. The more perfect union between the United States and the United States of America. And the two of them made up the more perfect union. Hold on a minute. Okay, so as we scroll into this document, you find Congress of the United States. Today they call it U.S. Congress. They renamed it. Therefore, the Constitution doesn't really apply, does it? Once you start straying away from what it's called and what these different things are called, you start to stray away from it. And because of that, the Constitution is not valid anymore. If you scroll down further here, you start to see Section 8. And this is very important right here. It says to define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations. Law of nations is key. Remember that. Very key. Down further, you see the oath that the president's supposed to take. And it says, the executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States of America. But yet in the oath, it says president of the United States. Two different things. Then you come down further and you start to see the judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court. It's called U.S. Supreme Court now, so that's two different things. What they did was they renamed all of these entities and then called them legit, when in fact they were not. And then, of course, you have citizens. There's different types of citizens here. You have a capital citizen, you have a lowercase citizen, which is down further. And there's a citizen of the United States, citizen, and citizen of the United States, lowercase c. Those are all different. When you change a capital and lowercase, it makes a difference in the name. The first name of the country that the colonists agreed on was the United States of America, not United States of America. It was called the United States of America, and the is capitalized, meaning it's part of the name. The style of this confederacy shall be the United States of America. And it was an agreement between all the states. It was a perpetual union, not a more perfect union. It mentions all the states here that agreed to the same thing. It was a unanimous vote. It was not a unanimous vote when it came to the Constitution. If I remember, Rhode Island was out of it and a couple other states. So it was not a unanimous agreement. And it was only
out of the 74 delegates, only 59 showed up.
And out of them, 34 signed. And out of all those people that signed it, none of them were in office at that time, because once they abandoned the Articles of Confederation, they were no longer in office. Because they didn't vote on a U.S. Constitution. So then you go on further in history and you find the Treaty of Paris. And all of a sudden, oh, wrong one.
So basically what we're saying is that there's a broken chain of title once the United States, or the Constitution for the United States, is followed.
That's right. So all of a sudden in 1783, just 2 years later, they started calling it United States. And there was an agreement between the Crown of Great Britain and the United States. Those are two banks, by the way. And the people that signed it were David Hartley, Esquire, John Adams, Esquire, Benjamin Franklin, Esquire, and John Jay, Esquire.
So can you go over that timeline one more time? 1781 is what?
The Articles of Confederation.
And then 1783 is?
When they did the Treaty of Paris.
The Treaty of Peace, Treaty of Paris. That's supposedly what ended the Revolutionary War. So what Tom's saying here is then the entity that was adopted or changed into 1789 was created in this Treaty of Peace, Treaty of Paris, 1783.
British-American diplomacy, the Paris Treaty, of September 30th, 1783. That was only 2 years later after they had agreed on the Articles of Confederation. 2 years. Well, where'd they get the name?
The two countries never went to peace.
Nope, they never did. And then you find a little nugget here and there, and you find this. The National Archives, you can see. Crown copyright in Congress, July 4th, 1776. A declaration by the representatives of United States of America in General Congress assembled. And notice I didn't say the, because the is not part of the name on this one. And if you scroll down a little bit further, you see signed by order and in behalf of the Congress. And as you notice, the name United States of America is there, right there. United States of America, not the United States of America. And the man who signed it was John Hancock. They had already planned that they were going to take over the United States. And if you go and you look at what Cornwallis said, the man who resigned his sword to Washington, he said, a holy war will now begin on America. And when it is ended, America will supposedly be the citadel of freedom, but her millions will unknowingly be loyal subjects to the crown. And when we talk about the crown, we're not talking about the king, we're talking about the financial city of London. The city of London. It's a 1 block radius of people that is its whole own entity. It's a city-state, just like Washington, D.C. or the Vatican. They're all cities, city-states, all of them. And he was talking about the crown. And if you go back to the Treaty of Paris, right? Hold on a minute. You go back to the Treaty of Paris, notice how it says Crown of Great Britain and said United States. Now, if you want to know who United States is, all you're going to do is look up Bank New York Mellon, and you'll see it in the contract in there where it actually says United States in the address. Who uses United States in their address? No one, except Bank New York Mellon. And with that, Kevin, would you like to explain the Northwest Treaty?
Okay, I'm going to share screens here for a second. But I just wanted to make sure that, so the Articles of Confederation, so part of this government, we have been working, it wasn't just once that we came through this document. We've been finding new information, reading through it. So this final, the political party in convention on August 5th, 2015, has been the latest amending of this document. So, but I just want to make sure that we're impressing this point that the name, the style of national government, the name of the country is the United States of America as amended from the 13 United States of America and the United States of America lowercase u, so as amended. Let me go ahead and let's see if this will switch over. So the Northwest Ordinance, did that switch over?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the main point to put forward here is that the original Union, so, and as Howard said previously, operating in parallel at the current time frame with the United States. So the US didn't adopt their constitution or put their constitution in place till 1789. So in 1787, the United States and Congress assembled, came together and put forward a plan, this Northwest Ordinance, for settling states that then would move westward. The thing I want to point out here is that it put forward all of the number of inhabitants, the rules by which we could expand then the government and the country. But one of the things that then 1789 and moving forward with the United States is that the said territory, for the purpose of temporary government, be one district. So when we look around in the current model of the United States, the districts are what send representatives to Congress. But the district is, by this ordinance, temporary government. Once the states are settled, once the counties are settled, which make up the boundaries of the state, then you would not have district being the temporary government in the said territory. So the Northwest Ordinance was set up to guide the territories, the inhabitants, to be able to assemble. All right, I need to stop share screens for a second. So one of the things that we bring forward in the affirmation for American National, so there again, taking an affirmation to your country makes you a national. Tom may go into this a little bit later, but a U.S. citizen takes no oath or affirmation to their state, which makes up the nation. So when we read through this affirmation, you would, when you're taking this, I state your name, hereby accept and acknowledge that one of the United States includes all 50 states, entitled to equal footing with the original 13 states, ratified and enforced July 13th, 1787 through the Northwest Ordinance and brought forward to the present time. So we're building a permanent population in each of the 50 states, and the Northwest Ordinance is that document that started the process of being able to settle the states. And we have brought that forward to the present time in our affirmation or oath to the country. Tom, you got anything else?
Yeah, it's okay. I want you to understand, first of all, that you can't become an American national just by writing a declaration. You can't declare residency of something that doesn't exist, first of all. The very idea of national has the name nation within it. If there's no nation, how can you be a national of a nation that doesn't exist? You have to make the nation exist. So we know now that the Constitution doesn't apply to you because there's no U.S. citizen within it. I've gone over this before. There is no U.S. citizen in the Constitution. Only a citizen of the United States, and there's two different ones. Now, when you start to think about the inhabitants, which was mentioned just now, inhabitants, this is out of the Law of Nations. Remember, I showed you that in the Constitution, the Law of Nations, right? Most people do not bother to read it because they don't even realize what they've read in the Constitution that they stand so firmly upon, right? We stand on the Constitution, but they never read it. They don't understand what they're reading. The inhabitants, as distinguished from citizens, are foreigners who are permitted to settle and stay in the country. Bound to the society by their residence, they are subjects to the laws of the state while they reside in it, and they are obligated to defend it because it grants them protection. Well, there's a scary virus out there. You have to wear your mask and you have to be euthanized, inoculated. Though they do not participate in all the rights of citizens, well, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, the list goes on and on. They enjoy only the advantages which the law or custom gives them. The perpetual inhabitants are those who have received the right of perpetual residence. These are kind of citizens of an inferior order and are united to the society without participating in all of its advantages. Their children follow the condition of their fathers, as the state has given these the right of perpetual residence. Their right passes to their posterity, which means you ain't nothing.
Well,
you're not part of a nation. You're not part of anything. Go ahead.
The concept of birthright citizenship is the inhabitant.
I wasn't showing screens, was I?
No.
Sorry. That's what.
That's okay.
Okay.
We just need to keep going through this because this is the description of the U.S. citizen, and it's the reason why you're obligated to, when boys, I'm not sure if girls, selective service, why the U.S. citizen is obligated to register for the draft when they turn 18 is the inhabitant status. They are ordered to defend it because the state protects them. And it's all this term inhabitant describes exactly what the U.S. citizen is.
And that's exactly what it is. In fact, if you check off, if you're doing your taxes, you usually check off U.S. citizen and resident on your tax form. Usually that's what you see. And what they've done is they've taken your person, the capital letter name, and put it offshore out of the states and then made you a foreigner to your own land, and that is why you're taxed. It's a little bit hard to absorb, but it's true. Now, we know in the Declaration of Independence it said that we had the right to change government. Everybody's seen that before, right? We have the right to change government. Well, yeah. But if you go back to the Law of Nations, it tells you that there's a specific way to change government. It may reform the government. If any nation is dissatisfied with the public administration, it may apply the necessary remedies and reform the government. But observe that I say the nation. The nation. For I am far from meaning to authorize a few malcontents or incendiaries to give disturbance to their governors by exciting murmurs and seditions. Now that's what they're doing in the Democratic Party, is they're inciting murmurs and seditions. They're doing Black Lives Matter and they're doing Antifa and the rest of it. And if you look at it, that's what they're doing. They're doing inciting, right? So none but the body of a nation, that would be the body politic. Keep that in mind. We'll get to that later. Have the right to change those at the helm when they abuse their power. When the nation is silent and obeys, the people are considered approving the conduct of their superiors, or at least finding it supportable. And it is not the business of a small number of citizens to put the state in danger under the pretense of reforming it. Now, body of a nation right here. Let's talk about that. That's called a body politic. It's the same thing. Body of a nation, body politic. All right? The body politic is formed when people come together in assembly. But let's first take a look at the workings of the social compact, because that's the glue that binds it all together. It's an agreement that people make among themselves to create a government to rule over them, or rather to rule them, I'm sorry, to protect their natural rights. Again, I say an agreement they make to protect their natural rights. We were all born with rights, natural rights. We're in a state of nature. In order to get from that state of nature, we need to be in social compact agreement. And we give up some of our natural rights to become part of a body politic. To avoid the state of nature, people agree to give up some of their freedom in exchange for protection and security. Citizens consent to follow laws in exchange for the protection that these laws will give them. So John Locke put this together, and it's from natural law, and all the natural law comes from where? The laws of God. And that's how it all came to be. And when people form an assembly, they are now in social compact together, they become a body politic. Now, I don't have what Brandon usually displays. Brandon's not on yet, is he?
No, he hasn't made it home yet.
Okay. All right. So I'm kind of, I usually leave that to him. Yeah.
Give him 20 minutes, maybe.
Okay. All right. So I'll have Brandon go over that to really solidify that if we can get him here. But in any case, you need, in order to form a body politic, you need an assembly of people in social compact agreement together. Now, what Kevin did was he demonstrated that you need to take an affirmation in order to have standing, so it all comes together as one, right? Let's go back to what Trump said. He knew that the United States of America was still here. I am pleased to inform you that the United States of America has reached a signed agreement with Mexico. Now, how was he able to use that name? The reason why was because he was treating with a country. You cannot treat with a country using a business name known as United States of America. Two different entities. He knows his entities. He also mentions US in here, and he also mentions United States down here. US is the military, United States is the bank. Now, I can prove that. Let's find out about that. Remember I told you that you could go to Bank New York Mellon? All right, so we go to their website and we go to contact. Bring this up a little bit bigger. And right here, it says corporate headquarters, 240 Greenwich Street, New York, New York, 10286, United States. That's where it is right there. That's United States. It's the bank. It's always been. Who uses United States in their address? Nobody but the bank. And that is where you look at the Treaty of Paris and you see Crown of Great Britain and said United States.
Because even Washington, D.C. is a territory of United States.
That's right.
It is not United States. It's a territory of United States.
And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. The truth has always been out there. You just had to put it together to understand it. And it starts to make sense the more you look at it. It takes time to understand it because we've been indoctrinated to believe things a certain way. But once you get past that hurdle, you start to see it. Now,
And there's many layers and entities. I mean, we're talking about Dutch properties. We're talking about British. We're talking about different unions and alliances. All of these things are out there. and it's difficult to understand what entities and the importance of the entities when you're trying to describe something. And they do that on purpose to confuse people into not looking.
Now let's go to the state of Texas Constitution, because this is kind of important. Notice how they named it Texas Constitution. That's really good. I like the way they pull these tricks. All right, so we go back down here and we get to the articles. And we look at section 1, section 2. And it says here, inherent political power, Republican form of government. Difference between a republic and a Republican form of government. All political power is inherent in the people, and all free governments are founded in authority and instituted for their benefit. The faith of the people of Texas stands pledged to the preservation of a Republican form of government. Again, it's not a republic. And subject to this limitation only. They have at all times the unalienable right, and we've seen this before. I have the unalienable right. You hear that all the time. To alter, reform, or abolish their government in such a manner as they deem expedient. Or think expedient, sorry. There's another one that says deem expedient. And then down here in section 3, this is the most important part, equal rights. All free men, when they form a social compact, have equal rights, and no man or set of men is entitled to exclusive, separate public emoluments or privileges, but in consideration of public services. The question is, when did you ever sign a social compact? I know I have. I know the people I work with have. When did you? So you can never be the body politic. You can never be the sovereign. The body politic is the sovereign. You will never be the sovereign until you're in social compact with others.
And that's also what forms the public. If there's no social compact, all you're really looking at when you're looking at these franchise states is private.
That's right.
They've set up their own private clubs that benefit a private set of individuals or groups of individuals. And so when they form a social compact, that's when they have the public.
Okay, so
and this is the reason why they don't go to jail,
because they're private clubs. Go ahead.
I yield it back to you, Tom.
Okay, they're all private clubs. That's why. That all free men, when they form a social compact, this is out of the Florida Bill of Rights. Let's see, state of Oregon, we declare that all men, when they form a social compact, are equal in right. Mississippi, that all free men, when they form a social compact, are equal in rights. State of Texas, I already went over. State of Kentucky, all men, when they form a social compact, are equal. Connecticut, all men, when they form a social compact, are equal in rights. Maryland, I wonder what they're trying to tell you here. State of Maryland, that all government of right originates from the people and is founded in compact only. Let's see, Virginia, that all men are by nature equal, are equally free and independent and have certain inherent rights. And they enter into a state of society. They cannot, by any compact, deprive or divest their posterity. So there you go. Social compacts are very important. If I scroll down here further, and you can read this for yourself if you'd like. A body politic is a social compact by which the whole people covenants with each citizen, and each citizen with the whole people, that all shall be governed by certain laws for the common good. While the Constitution may contain aspects of the social contract, if the social contract is entirely contained within the Constitution, it would be only in what is referred to as an unwritten Constitution. Any questions up to this point? Anyone?
Tom, have you shown them yet who the treasury was on the original documents?
No, but you can go ahead if you'd like, Harwood.
I don't believe I have that photo.
Okay. I don't have it available at this moment. Any questions?
Was that the Paris Treaty? Or was that the Constitution?
The Treaty of Paris.
Treaty of Paris. Let me see if I can find it.
Which part, Howard?
Where the King of England signed the Treaty of Paris as the arch treasurer.
Oh, yeah, that was, okay, hold on. I got that right here. You can go ahead, Howard, you can talk.
Okay, if you look at this document, Tom, I'm gonna have to let you do it because I'm on my phone and I only got one good eye.
Oh, that's right, I forgot. Sorry about that, guy. Okay, right here it says, it having pleased the divine providence to dispose of the hearts of the most serene, most potent Prince George III, by the grace of God, King of Great Britain, France, and Ireland, Defender of the Faith, Duke of Brunswick, and Lunsburg. Boy, that's a long title. Arch Treasurer and Prince Elector of the Holy Roman Empire, etc., and of the United States of America. It's right there. They won the war and made him the Arch Treasurer. How does that work?
So when you pay your taxes, it goes all to the arch treasurer.
Isn't that something? You gotta love that, right? So yeah, it's right there. And of the United States of America. And again, we've gone through this, but where did the United States of America come from? This document.
A separate,
right here.
A separate union working in parallel. So part of the changing of a worldview is identifying evidence and trying to put it into perspective. And when we look at the terms inhabitant, and when we look to the name of the country, so what we're looking at, what each of us has come to the conclusion is inhabitant in the United States is a loyal subject or servant of the crown. And that's not what I was taught growing up as to the current condition. That was not the narrative given. And so when we put some of these pieces together, then we find that we could not take an oath or affirmation to our state because that was not available to us. And then birthright citizenship then is part of this inhabitant terminology. And so we found ourselves in a without standing and figuring why all of these things we were trying to gain our freedom weren't working. We had no status, we had no standing to make a claim as a US citizen. So when each of us then found or helped to build this government for the country in a nation called the United States of America, things started to make sense. And things started to put in place where we did have standing to make claims, to publish our claims. I yield.
There's a lot more to this than meets the eye. It's hard to understand because you've been indoctrinated all your life. But once you start to understand it, it starts to become clear. It just takes time.
Can we go over the company flags? Do you have a part of the presentation about the company flags? That's another
you
piece
guys are
of
top five.
evidence that really stands out to me.
This one.
So when
Right?
we say company, we're talking about what company? East India Trading Company, West India Trading Company, Dutch East India Trading Companies. We're also talking about the colonies, as the colonies were run by charter of these companies. The Virginia Company, the Massachusetts Bay Company, each of these chartered companies, whether they're British or Dutch in their inception, each fly a flag that looks very similar to the United States flag. And so when we call the United States a company, and when we say a more perfect union, what this government has put together is that more perfect union is a way that the chartered companies, the colonies, came back and created a more perfect union of colonies, of chartered companies under that constitution. And they are company corporations by definition, in their definition of United States. And so the East India Trading Company flags just changed the blue background and the stars in that area, but it's always flown the colors of these 13 red and white stripes.
Okay, do you see this right here? See this plus sign here? See that? Now let's go back. See the plus sign here? See the colors? How many stripes are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I thought the 13 stripes were supposed to be the colonies. Oh my God. And this is when you start to see the picture.
Because the flag you fly under, it makes a difference on what you're supporting and defending.
And what laws you fall under. So do you
Exactly.
think you can build your own assemblies under this flag or the one that they have now? Absolutely not. You have to exile from that company in order to build your nation. Otherwise, you fall under their jurisdiction. It's very simple.
Companies have policies, and if you've noticed where the inhabitants fall under the jurisdiction of company policy with the pandemic or the vaccinations or whatever policies you want to try and fall under, executive orders, all of these things come from company jurisdiction.
Questions?
Tom, I was wondering if you could bring out the original Declaration of Independence, where what happened to those people who originally signed it.
Oh, that's a long list of things. But what I could do,
if you wanted to, if you had time.
I know that's a long one though. I mean, there's so many things that happen to those people. There's a story that was written about the people that were in the revolution and the people who signed the Declaration of Independence, not the one I showed you, but the other one that the states all agreed on. And they were burned, their families were killed, they were hung, they died penniless, and they were just regular people. They were businessmen. They were just regular people. And they didn't want this to happen. What you're fighting now is kind of like the same thing that they were fighting then. Of course, they didn't have the technology they have today. But it started with a little book called Common Sense. I think we should really write Common Sense too, but that's just me. They wrote a little book and it spread around the colonies, and people read the book and understood that maybe we do have a chance to change this. Were you going to say something, Jen? Jen?
I'm sorry?
Were you going to say something?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was an accident.
You unmuted, so. So we do have a chance to change it. We don't have to buy what they're selling, but it's up to us to make it happen, obviously. And I'm not going to rely on a guy who was in the presidency for 4 years and that's it. I'm not going to rely on Congress to fix it because you see how well they're doing. I'm not going to rely on the military to change it because they haven't really done anything either. I mean, yeah, you hear reports about things and you hear all kinds of rumors, but they're unsubstantiated. What it's really going to take is the people to make this happen. And if we're going to sit back and let it happen, then we don't deserve freedom at all. Anybody got any questions? Do we want to get to the proof part? I know most of you have seen the proof, but does anybody want to see proof of this?
I will say that Trump has said that he wants to give the nation back to the people. The people need to wake up and realize what he is saying. If we don't do this, it's not going to happen. He cannot do this by himself. The people need to wake up, and they're still asleep. There is only 4,000 of us. And with that, I yield.
You guys are a tough crowd. Nobody's asking me questions. Anyone?
Well, it's a lot to digest, but I am very hopeful seeing quite a few women on this call, because that's what it's going to take to really change people's minds. Is because I don't know exactly how to explain this, but when it's middle-aged white guys screaming, they've stolen the country from us, we just get labeled as crazy. But when Cheryl Weicker stands up, when Carolyn Rinkenberger stands up and says, nope, not going to have this. It matters. It means something. And so I'd like to just thank all of the women that are on this call tonight, just giving a listen to the chain of title, to the worldview that we think is based in evidence from the documents that have been viewed.
And with that, I'm going to stop this recording and open up the mic to any questions.